welcome to Pure Drops of Healing. Thank you so much for watching this video. This is actually my second video, and I looked at the first video and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, it is so obvious that I was so nervous. Well, the truth is, I don't think this video is going to be any different because I am so deeply attached to the topic that I'm talking about, which is the loss of my 16-year-old son who took his own life 12 years ago. I always tell everyone I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a licensed therapist, and I'm certainly not an expert on mental illness. As a matter of fact, I'm still learning, and will always try to learn whatever I can, about the topic that is so enigmatic, and there's so many questions for those of us who have traveled this road. It's a very hard experience, but I know that we will not get over it, but I guarantee that with time and with a good support, you can find ways to cope. So I just want to share my story with the intention of helping someone who is struggling with the loss of a loved one, or someone who is struggling with suicidal thoughts and don't know how to reach out for help. And also, I will answer whatever question I can graciously, because I'm pretty much aware of the fact that everyone grieves differently, These are just all sensitive matters of the heart that must be handled with care, with great consideration, compassion, and of course, sensitivity. So thank you so much for tuning in today again. Okay, so today I'm talking about how I learned to embrace the shame, the blame, and the guilt. I think for those of us who have lost a loved one by suicide, we tend to feel very guilty and we tend to blame ourselves, and it can take us years and years of trying to find a better space to embrace all these negative emotions. And here's the thing. For those of us who have never struggled with mental illness, it's very hard for us to understand. The entire topic it's enigmatic. For someone like myself who has never struggled with suicidal thoughts before, it was hard for me to imagine anyone else, especially my child, to be in that situation. Because as parents, we always think that our love will bring them through the worst days. We think that our love will make them feel strong on the days when they feel weak. We feel that our love will make them feel happy on the days when they feel sad. We feel that our love will offer companionship in the moments when they're very lonely. And after the event of losing someone to suicide, we feel so powerless and so defeated. And I think something that tortured, me in person, was that I kept thinking that he left the world without even knowing or without truly understanding how much I love him. And it hurts, just the thought of your loved one leaving the planet without knowing how much they are loved. So I think this is one of the main reasons why suicide survivors get stuck in grief. It's heavy, it's a dark place, and it's very painful. And it's so easy for anyone who's losing a loved one, to be honest with you, it's so easy for us to just drift in psychosis because there's so many different elements of the pain. There's so many questions, there's so many things to think about, and you're just stretched thinly. I remember saying to a grieving mom, I said, I feel like I stuck my head in a beehive and there is like a million bees attacking me. And there is this noise in my head. There is this constant rush of my thoughts of panic and fear. It's almost like my brain is telling me to run, run, run. Something bad is going to happen again. So I'm into this panic mode 24 hours. Now I can't sleep. Your brain can't shut down. I'm on edge. And so there is this noise in my head, and yet the rest of my body is numb. So you end up into this void, this spaciousness of just an nauseous, empty feeling, you know? And of course, you're disconnected. Your head is rushing, your body is numb. You can't function in this space. You really can't. And every time that I got a little brave and opened up my story, opened up to someone about how I lose my son, the first thing they would always say to me is that you can't just dwell on this, you have to move on. And they'd say, well, you can't blame yourself, you didn't do it, he's the one who took his own life. Or they would say, you can't feel guilty, and this went on for years until I stopped talking about it. So now it's another phase of the pain. It's another chapter where everything is just internal. And I'm just going through the motions of life, trying to figure out what is the next right move. How will I ever find ways to cope with this? And it went on for years. It went on for years. So now I'm in this battle with my negative emotions, guilt, shame, blame. And I came to a better understanding, especially when I'm sitting outside, let's say on a park bench, and I could just look at some birds who has nothing to do with my problems. A tree, the wind blowing the leaves, just you can feel the breeze on your face. And I allow these things to pamper me. There are so many things about nature that is extremely calming. And I would just go sit by myself and invite better thoughts, And I remember one day I just said aloud, I said, okay, everyone is telling me not to feel guilty, not to feel ashamed, not to blame myself. Then that means I am really in possession of all these negative emotions. And what if they're here to help me? What if all these negative emotions are actually guiding me towards a place of healing? And it's not easy. It's not easy, all of these things took me years to go through and to be in a better place with it. So I said, okay, I have to blame myself for not understanding. And that may sound weird or unfair to myself. It's okay. I don't expect life to be fair. I think that's just a recipe for a miserable life. If you live your life thinking everything has to be fair and square, then you're never going to be happy. So I think blaming myself brought me to a place of a better understanding with it. Because here's the thing. If I don't blame myself, I am going to blame someone else. Because there were others who definitely contributed towards his emotional pain. And I know that. But if I sit here and blame them, I'm not going to heal. So I have to blame myself. Because if I don't blame myself, I'm going to blame someone else. And if I blame someone else, I am going to miss the lesson. How could something of this magnitude happen to me and I don't learn anything from it? I have to learn something from it. So on my worst days, when I'm drowning in all these negative emotions, I just decide to see them. I make the conscious decision of using them as my tool use them. I decide to use them as my little guidance. These negative emotions are pointing me towards my healing. And the moment that I flipped the script and I started to think, okay, these emotions are here to teach me something. And I think the more I got open to that concept, that the bad feelings are guiding me to the light, I started to feel better. Of course, there were still days when I would relapse and go back to, grieving all over again. And anyone who has lost a loved one, they know the cycle. Some days you feel good, next days you're back at square one. It's okay, go back at square one and do it all over again. And bit by bit, you get to a better place. You get to a better place minute by minute. Just change your concept about the pain. Change your concept about the shame and the guilt. And the reason why I talk about shame is that I'm from Jamaica, right? And growing up in Jamaica, I didn't even know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows themselves. It was just a taboo topic that we never talked about. And for those of us who grew up in the church like myself, we are always taught that if someone killed themselves, it's going to be the most unforgivable sin. So I had to bring myself to a space where I understand that God knows mental illness. God knows cancer. God knows all the disease that plagues humanity. He knows, and He's a loving God. And if you're wired with that understanding, you will find ways to cope. I'm telling you, you will find ways to cope. And so I don't feel ashamed of it. My son was ill. I blame myself because I want to learn where I went wrong. I feel guilty because I felt that if I had learned something about mental illness, or if I had paid enough attention to the things that bothered him, I would have caught on. So now I have to live with this. But I know it's not the end. I know it's definitely not the end. Because when my son passed away, he was 16, my daughter is 11. And I know for sure that whatever I learned through my son's transition, I can apply that in terms of being a better mother to my daughter. I always say to myself, if I am ever given the chance to be the mother of another little boy, I'm going to be a better mother to that child, because now I understand. Now I know what to pay a lot of attention to. Because see, it's so easy for us to think that parenting a child is just about providing a roof over their head, sending them to school, buying clothes, toys, food. And these things are needs. They are basic things that every human being needs. We need shelter, we need clothing, we need food. Children, they want playtime, they want things to play with. But there are other things also. And this experience has brought me to a place where I understand that their emotions, their minds, all of these places have to be filled as well. So I learn now how to pay more attention to my daughter, her emotional needs. I have conversations with her that I didn't have with my son. And also, I can share the story with other mothers who have teenagers, Some of us may have a child who throws a longer tantrum, a child who screams and kicks at things that we perceive as nonsense, to them it's really a crisis. And it's a real crisis to them. I've had conversations with mothers who would say, this is my troubled child. But the truth is, they're just sensitive children. They're sensitive children who hurt easily. And until we understand that, we won't be able to help them. There are some children who, whether it's through their wiring or through nurture or whatever it is, they just have more emotional needs than other children. And I still feel guilty for not understanding that with my son. I don't think I'll be able to let it go altogether. But I have to catch myself on the days when I'm falling apart. I have to just remember that I just did not know. I was never taught anything about mental illness. I just did not know. So I have to forgive myself because I did not know. And it's not easy. It's really not. But I think over the years, sharing the story and just getting it out, I know of some people who have, reach out to me and tell me thanks because I have gave them insight on things that they never really thought were important. And that's the whole point of sharing my story, That's the whole point of sharing my story. Life is a journey. We're all here to learn something. We're all here to share our experiences. And some of us may struggle a lot. And some of us may have better experiences, Nothing is a guarantee. We all show up here on the planet and we are all trying to figure things out. But the more we know, the more we are able to help each other. In closing, I just want to reach out to someone right now who is struggling with the loss of a loved one. And I want to remind you that there are ways to cope with it. You will find them. Just be open to healing. And on your worst days, well, for me, on my worst days, I have learned that I can't hold on to the end result of my son's transitioning. I had to try and search for the better memories, his smile, his laughter. And of course, they're bittersweet because we all want more of that from our loved ones. If we think of the happy memories, we want them back. And if we think of, their last moments here, we hurt even more. So there's no win-win. But for me, the better memories are kind of like a soft spot to land. The better memories bring a certain warmth to your spirit. It's almost like you're feeling their presence the moment you think of a song that they like. Let the tears fall, but allow yourself to feel the warmth that comes with your memories. That warmth will stay with you forever. Until I see you again, thank you so much for watching. God bless.